Now we're going to look at the lasso tool. This one has some interesting options, so we're going to cover it in 2 lessons. It's over here in the Tools panel, and its keyboard shortcut is the letter L. The easiest way to use the lasso tool is to simply click and drag. Define an area. When you release the mouse button, Flash will draw a straight line for you back to your starting point, and the contents of your drawn area are now selected. So now you can make changes to the selected portion of your artwork. Change the fill color. Use the Properties Inspector to change the stroke attributes. And notice that if you hover your mouse over a selected area, the cursor will change to the Selection tool. So you can quickly reposition your selected artwork. You can also use the arrow keys on the keyboard for this. To deselect, simply click anywhere in your window or the little bar up here underneath the layers. And finally, keep in mind that the Selection tool will select artwork on multiple layers. If we turn off the top layer here, you can see that we've cut a hole in the bottom layer. If you don't want this to happen, lock the other layers. Also notice that the lasso tool only works like this on basic drawn artwork. It works differently on instances of symbols in the library or artwork drawn in the object mode. For these, the lasso tool simply selects the entire instance or group of instances. To select particular areas of an instance, you have to edit the symbol itself. Thankfully, we can do this quickly by holding down the Control key. This temporarily gives us the Selection tool, double-clicking the instance, and now we can play with it. Okay, back to the main window. Before we go any farther, don't forget the Preferences settings we looked at earlier. Up here under Edit and Preferences. Remember the context-sensitive selection and lasso tools? This changes the behavior of the lasso tool when selecting instances or artwork drawn in the object mode. So the lasso tool creates freehand selection areas. This is very useful. But when you want to use straight lines for selection edges, instead of drawing them freehand, have a look down here in the Options area. We have a Polygon Mode button. Select this, and now you just need to single-click the points of a polygon shape you wish to select. Return to the beginning and double-click to complete the selection. Now let's have a look at the keyboard modifiers for the lasso tool. Well, we just saw that if we hold down the Control key on a PC or Command on a Macintosh, we get the Selection tool temporarily, which is pretty cool. If you hold down the Shift key, you can select multiple areas or objects, or add to an existing selection. Hold down the Alt key to quick select Polygon mode. As you can see here, I'm holding down the Alt key. Even though the cursor looks the same, we're now in polygon mode. And if you hold both the Alt and Shift keys down, you can select both polygon shape selections and use the basic lasso tool. And finally, you'll see that whenever you make a selection, Flash highlights this selection area with a dot pattern. Sometimes you may want to turn this off to see how artwork is going to look in its final state. Say, for example, I want to slightly change the color of these selected areas, but I'm not sure which color will work right. Instead of repeatedly selecting and reselecting and undoing just to see how it's going to look, simply choose View and Hide Edges. Control H on a PC or Command H on a Macintosh. This will turn selection highlighting off. Now, even though you don't see it, these areas are still selected. We can change colors to our heart's content, and we see the effect immediately. Just don't forget to turn it back on, or you might end up thinking that your lasso tool is broken when it's not. And that brings us to the end of this lesson.